Hello and welcome back to Table Time Lifestyle. It has been a hot minute and I do apologize. It has been a little busy with the wedding and all, and it still is pretty busy. We just got our stuff from our wedding gifts, and so we finally got those over to the storage unit. And so our living room is back to being functional. We are writing thank you cards. We are almost at a month out, and I am still behind on thank you cards. I still have another 50 or 60 to write, and so it's definitely been very busy, and I've been trying to take small pieces every day to get those written and so that we can get them sent out. And then I have been going back and looking at receipts and working on my album for our honeymoon and just writing things out on that. And so obviously it's been a little busy. I've been a little distracted from editing, and so I did just want to hop back on here and welcome everyone back. But I also wanted to take some time to show you really what it was like for me to plan. Um, Obviously, I don't have like all the pictures yet or anything, and so I will show those once we get them back from our photographer. She said that they should be back next week, so that's really exciting, and we'll put together some sort of little video um, with some reactions from Colin and me on those pictures. I did want to touch base about this Excel. This wedding Excel has a bunch of pages in it, and I will just briefly walk through a bunch of them. They're not all necessarily going to be shown. This just was the wedding details. First and foremost, we looked at dates that were possible. And so these were all dates that we had in mind, that we were willing to even consider. And then we looked at different locations and what they had available and what they were already booked out for. And so that kind of helped us narrow it down to when we wanted to do it, and then looking at where we could do it. And so we did do the cathedral with the country club, because that just worked best for us. So we did map out our um, possible dates. Then we had a details sheet, so I did hide some information, but this was just kind of the easy. So if anyone needed that information, I could just literally give them this page, so that they had all of our contact info, the wedding date, time, style, how big our wedding party was, locations, menu idea or menu items, how many guests we expected, our hotel block information, um, our photographer information, all that information on the detail page. Then I just a rough breakdown. We did adjust this, and we actually printed out some really cute ones for our wedding party. Let me get that open. Um, what we had given our wedding party was actually just something that it fit more the style of the wedding, and so it used that same font as our cards and everything. And so it's just kind of a fun way to include that information for our wedding party. And so here, if you can see it now, we have the let's do this. And so then it broke down what our wedding party needed to do, and then what to bring with them. And then down here was contact information for our parents, as well as the maid of honor and or the matron of honor and the best man. So going back to our Excel, we did have this as our rough timeline initially, and then we were able to adjust that later on. Then our wedding party, this is where we took down information like shoe sizes, dress sizes if we needed to order those kind of things. So we plugged those in. But we had our entire wedding party and anyone that was important to mention, our godparents, our photographer, our musicians, servers, etc. Then we had the just being able to price and kind of gauge what prices were going to look like. And so we did have a few people that we had met with, talked with about costs for cupcakes. We ended up going with Oak Hills. They were extremely reasonably priced and they were phenomenal. I loved their ability to coordinate. They added blue frosting colors to match our wedding colors. They came in, they set them up for us. It was really nice. They were delicious. They were really good cupcakes, really easy to work with, very inexpensive, and totally would recommend if you're in the New Ulm area to consider them for your cupcakes. And then our cake, we actually had a family friend. She made a beautiful cake, and I will try to plug a picture in right here. Then we also did the same thing with photographers. We went out and we just searched a whole lot of photographers. Then just wrote in things like didn't do weddings or was already booked. So we had a bunch of photographer options. And then we decided to go with a newer photographer that, she really hadn't done too many big weddings, and we were probably one of the biggest weddings she has done. And so it was really kind of fun to work with someone that's just trying to get into the business and really trying to take off in the business, because I love photography and um, I love people that can be passionate about it. I'm not the greatest with photographing portraits and people. I love landscapes and structures and sculptures and photographing food and things like that. And so I'm always impressed and I enjoyed working with her. She is so fun. She kind of just fits right in with mine and Colin's vibe and what we were looking for. And so we were excited to have her. Then we did, I threw this all on here. We made all of our stationery. We had a couple different invitation ideas. This was the save the date that we sent out pretty early this past spring. Obviously, you can tell by the leaves, we first were thinking just these kind of fall colored leaves, but then we actually switched to this watercolor painted flowers that I found online, which that is a really great website too. This Hungry Image JPEG. Okay. So what this is that we had, you can search different bundles, but they're all different artwork that's put together by different artists. And so they do things like here, for example, is this really like a fun mason jar. They're very inexpensive and you get all the digital files that go with it. They're not loading well. But that there was all these different pieces. And so we were able to pick some flowers out of that one to make all of our invitations, our detail cards, our RSVPs, as well as our program once we made a program. And so all of those were made with these fun images that make them unique and special, as well as just being able to make them yourselves. and it wasn't too bad to print. I don't have everything in the budget laid out, but we spent probably $400 to $500 total in stationery, and then obviously mailing them out. But to buy envelopes on Amazon was really cheap. We could find a navy blue color that we really liked. We were able to write with the Cricut markers, the metallic markers from Cricut, right onto the envelope, and so those looked really good. But overall, this was not terribly expensive for making something our own and making it unique to us. I made my sister's invitations and RSVP cards the same way with a similar, but not the same water decals from Hungry Image, which I really enjoyed making hers as well because they were so fun. And then ours, we added a detail card, we added the program. So for my sister's wedding, which was smaller, we just did the invite and the RSVP card, and then a small two-sided program, and that was also extremely inexpensive. We also made our table numbers. We made them as a really long sheet like this, so that the table number was on both sides, and then we were able to fold the bottom down, and there was still a border of the flowers, and then the bottom was colored, and so we were able to make that for all of our tables, and it had the same font as our invite. So we just did a lot of matching and tried to keep everything cohesive throughout our wedding. The next thing is really geared towards our photographer and what we did for her. So we started off with, we just went in on Facebook, on Pinterest. We made a Pinterest board on this Excel sheet so that you didn't have to dig through Pinterest to find it. But we did pull up some friends and family that had different wedding poses that we liked, as well as wedding party poses and family poses, things like that that we wanted to be done. And we were able to send her those so that she had an idea of what we wanted. And then we had special groupings. We did have some special requests. So we laid out like who needed to be in every picture. And so we listed those out for all the different families and groups. So that was just one of the things that we did so that we kind of had an idea that we were checking groups off the list as we went. We didn't get to all of them. We missed, like, for example, we didn't have a picture with the altar servers. We didn't do all of my siblings, things like that. Then we had our giant guest list. So this is my largest and ultimately the thing I'm most proud of about this Excel sheet. And so we have all of our, obviously information's blacked out for you guys. We had all of our guests listed on here, whatever information we had, for sure their address, if we needed their phone number, but we had all of our guests. So here's my sister, for example. So my sisters, we listed a whole lot of things out. So here we had 2 different bridal showers, and so if they were invited to one or the other, this was not perfect. It didn't align perfectly with the actual bridal shower. I did a more of a rough estimate of which who needed to be invited where. And so we had those listed. We had the rehearsal dinner so that we had an account for the rehearsal dinner. We had, if we were to have invited everybody that we wrote on this list, how many would we have for the reception and the ceremony? We, however, did have to decide we wanted to cut down. So we only sent out save the dates for 100 or 350 of them. Then of the 140 save the dates or so we sent out 125 of them. And so like here we did send 2 save the dates to Colin's mom and then his sister. Then for people we were waiting to hear a response from, these were just people that we sent a invite to that we hadn't received an RSVP back from, and so there was only 2 people unaccounted for. And then we had the RSVPs that were coming to the reception. We did have a few that came back as just coming to the mass, and so this is actually 100 less than we first were thinking. When we had knocked down our number, we tried to aim towards that 315 number, and so we did knock that down here. Then we had the breakdown on meals, so how many plates based on our RSVP. And then on the side here, if we had any special notes, so like here we needed to have a seat for Oliver, people that were ceremony only, people that were stopping in or just dropping off a gift. We just made a note about those, like why did they need an extra seat here? Because they had 2 kids that were going to be sharing 1 meal. But we made those notes along the way. And so this really has been the biggest piece. So it has all the addresses and all the information that I could possibly needed when I'm writing thank yous, when I was doing the RSVPs, the invites, as well as just keeping track of numbers and being able to send out those specific ones to people as they needed them. Then the fun stuff. So we'll start here with the DJ. We made our DJ a special list. So we had our entrance music. Our first dance was going to be right after our entrance, so we had that on there. We had our dance music or our dinner music, so we wanted kind of a jazzy club kind of music. One of my favorite artists, Frank Sinatra, so we had that playing during dinner. And then we transitioned by doing a shoe game led by a friend of ours, and then some specific dances. And then we had just recommendations for songs. We definitely didn't do all of these, but we definitely touched some of them. One of my favorites is we did play Amanda, which is kind of fun. Nobody, not too many people know the song Amanda by Boston, but for me it was pretty fun because my family sometimes sings that, my extended family, to me because obviously my name's Amanda. And so we did send them this list so that they had an idea of what we wanted and what we liked. So a lot of this was music that we liked or our friends liked that we had asked. And so we were able to give them kind of this is what people want to listen to. And so they were able to make a list based off some of those songs. Then we had our introduction, which super excited. We decided to go with a baseball theme. And so Colin really likes sports. And so we played the song Center Field and we did our starting lineup. And so we were able to have fun with that. And then Colin and I came in with we came in with Enter Sandman by Metallica. Because why not? If you're going to be the pitcher and the catcher, why not come out with a bang? And so we did that. We had several speeches. We had a unity candle and prayer by Colin's stepdad. Then we had some speeches. We had the cake cutting. All of those little things were laid out in rough time estimates just so that the DJ had an idea of when we wanted to do certain things. Then we made a seating chart that actually transitioned into a large seating chart that was alphabetical by last name, which is not too often do you see one that is organized like this, but it was very effective because you don't have to search for your name amongst the tables. You just need to search for your name to find your table. And so here's what that ended up looking like. So we, obviously had every letter that we needed. So we could skip a few, like no Q's needed there, no Y's, things like that, no X's. But we were able to plug all of these in, and then I printed it on a yard sign. And so Office Max here had same day printing for yard signs. So I just got a large yard sign. I think it was a 2x3 foot yard sign. And we just set that up on the table against the wall. Very easy to use. And an easy way to find their seats. And so we did have this laid out for all the tables. To make the yard sign, we did take all of the names alphabetically here so that they were lining up. It didn't matter by table, but by alphabet. So that was more just to make the other one that we needed. And here, I never went back to finish it, but this was kind of our budget spending remaining. Obviously we didn't use this page all too well, but I am going to go back and edit that to add in, as well as here's transactions so that we knew where things were coming from and what were coming. Then for the ceremony, because we just kind of skipped in order, we got this little, it was more of a helpful sheet that listed all of the options for different readings and songs, because we did have a full mass. Some suggestions for music for the wedding, and we ended up taking that and we just made this more easy one to read that just had the songs stuff that we wanted. And so we did have that in there, and we printed that off and were able to give that to the priest. Then this was some other options for the reception, just some ideas. We didn't actually go with any of those. Then these are the readings for the ceremony, just to have them all in one spot so that we could easily read them and find them. We had those all in there. Then this is just my kind of guest list, or not guest, gift list. And so it was all the different gifts that we had gotten from who, and then they would mark off if we wrote a thank you card yet or not. Which this was just mostly the bridal shower. I haven't entered any of the wedding ones in here except for these top two. because I'm working on the thank yous and I'd rather work on the thank yous than plugging the thing into the Excel. Then here's a checklist that was just kind of used as our reference. This was just a generic one that you can find actually as a Google template. And so it was just kind of being able to look at them, mark off things, but there was a lot that we really didn't need, or were kind of just already built in. We didn't need to bartender for the rehearsal dinner because we were just at a restaurant, things like that. So a lot of this wasn't really necessary. It was a good reference to like occasionally look at and be like, oh shoot, I need to do that. And flower ideas, these were just some general ideas on like what we wanted to do with flowers and some thoughts. We ended up not using any of them. The only photo we did was we used this one to kind of recreate the structure and shape of my bouquet. Then dresses, this was just a whole bunch of ideas. And we ended up just letting the girls, they just picked what they wanted. I gave them what dress color they were wearing. They picked the design structure that they wanted. They all had a different dress. The only the only ones that almost had the same dress were my sister Kat and my sister-in-law Reagan, because they both really liked this one dress. And so then my sister ended up switching to a similar but not the same dress. And so they all had different dresses. They all went for simple, because my wedding dress was on the simpler side. And so instead of having something that competed or went above and beyond my dress, they all went with very flat dresses. Then we did plan our honeymoon. We went to Duluth, and so we picked out our lodging. So we stayed in Superior because it was less expensive. You could still see the harbor, and it was less than a 20-minute drive into town. And there was stuff to do in the Wisconsin side as well. So we were able to stay there. We had stayed there before. We had enjoyed being there before. And so we picked those out. Then we kind of divided things up into food. We had breweries. We had museums and entertainment that we could go to. Then we wanted to go up to Grand Marais, and so we went to Fisherman's Daughter was the restaurant we wanted to go to for sure. Then there were some different places we could go. It was a little foggy and everything to go to the falls and the lighthouse, and it was also been a drought, so the falls supposedly weren't very impressive. And so we didn't end up doing those. We kind of just spent a bunch of time at Fisherman's Daughter and some little shops around town. But overall, that's one of the things I will show you in another video. I promise this time, because I'll just do it via Zoom like this and I won't take too much time editing it. I want to show you the book I'm making, so our photo book, and I tasked Colin with doing some writing for it, and so we'll see how that turns out. But we do have some pictures to show you. Then the honeymoon we did, this is pretty accurate. I think there was just a couple unaccounted for items because we did use, like we use cash and I don't have the receipt, or like we ordered them online and I don't have the receipt off the top of my head. But so we do have that, and so that's where our cost roughly was, which this is the impressive part. So we spent for 6 nights in the hotel $877. And if we were in Superior, or that's in Superior. If we were in Duluth, we would have almost doubled that, if not more. And there's no good reason to justify doubling that. Um, if you're gonna enjoy your trip, why not go over there and enjoy it? And so I was pretty impressed. But just I've always been impressed with that Hampton. Great service, beautiful place, nice location, um, good accessible rooms. They're not all on the first floor, which is great because then as you move up like third floor and above, you get the little view of the harbor, and so it's just nice to be there. Um, their pool's a little cold, but that wasn't a big deal. Um, and so it was good to just enjoy that. And then this was just used as reference. So just kind of making sure that we had things if we needed them. I did make my like a separate list that I ended up using more so, just because there's a lot of things on here we didn't need and we didn't bring because we don't have a Nintendo. Nobody really uses a DVD player anymore. GPS is on your phone, binoculars. That would have been kind of fun to like look at the boats that way, but I didn't have any walkie-talkies. We didn't need things like that. But they were kind of, it does help you think about what you do need, because we probably should have revisited this, because we did have to go to Walgreens for medicine while we were up there, which wasn't that big of a deal, needed it anyways. But so ultimately, that is our wedding book. And so I do plan on actually adding to it just to make it a little easier for if somebody needs it in the future. Like one of my siblings, just putting together like a little timeline sheet, because there are some things that you do want to get done earlier. And there's websites like The Knot that give you that list, but they're not really customizable like an Excel sheet is. And so that's why I really do like the Excel sheet. I really enjoyed making it and continuing to like add sheets as I was going. And overall, it was easy to use. I could pull up on my phone, I could pull it up on the laptop, and everything was just within reach all the time, even at the wedding, during the rehearsal dinner, anytime I needed it, it was there. And so I did enjoy having that. Um, so ultimately, let me know if you have any questions about it, or if you have suggestions on what I should add to it or change. Or if you're looking for, if you need it to be handy. One thing I didn't mention about it is all of those on the guest list, everything is self-calculating at the top. Everything's a sum, and so as I was adding on, I didn't have to go back and recalculate anything. That I always had the current number, and it's I would say it's easier to just plug a name onto the Excel sheet, and get the contact on there and feel a little more safer than trying to plug everybody's contact information into the Knot to be able to um, to to have them RSVP online. It's as you could have them RSVP online. You could have them RSVP through a Google form and plug the responses right into that sheet. Like there is no reason um, that you need to put everyone else's information out there for the world, um, on like the Knot and things like that, when it's pretty secure to also just put it on your Google, or on any Excel. And so I do like that format. Um, it was a really great day. I should just, as much work as I put into it, it was a great day. We had fun. We ultimately just, we enjoyed it. Time flew by. My dress was grossly disgusting and dirty by the end, but you know, at the same point, it was all worth it. It was fun. Um, there was definitely things that didn't go the way I was hoping, and I still think about it today. Um, but I wouldn't want to redo that day because it worked out. It was a good day. So thanks for joining me again. And I can't wait to share some more videos with you now that things have calmed down a little bit and that I have some things to share. So be sure to comment below what your thoughts are on this Excel, and if you have any other thoughts on what to post, I will be waiting to hear. Bye.